we believe in assisted independence or interdependence because we do believe that the power of partnership that clearly defines the Insigneo model is the best approach to wealth management and investing. You're able to achieve any milestones. It may or may not work, but it certainly won't work if you don't try. You got to believe in yourself.
I have the pleasure to sit and chat with Raul Henriquez. He's the CEO, chairman of the board of Insigneo, and co-founder of the firm in the year 1985. So Raul, thank you very much for sitting with us and telling us about your journey. First of all, I would like to talk about a very important milestone. In less than a decade, you've gone from less of 3 billion in assets under management to 30 billion. So how did you do it?
I guess one at a time. It's certainly been a journey, and I will say that it's less about the number and more about the why and the how you're able to achieve any milestone. So in that sense, the why is because it was a great opportunity. It was not so clear at the beginning, but it became clearer as time went along. And the how, it takes a village. I've said that many times. And I have a great group of people that believed in this idea that I initially came up with, and I was bold enough to bet on. And then I was convincing enough or enthusiastic enough to gather this capable group of colleagues that now make up really the core of Insigneo and its success.
Let's go and look a little bit back. You talked about an opportunity. There were big Wall Street banks that were leaving behind Latin American clients. How did you see this opportunity? How did you seize it?
The approach that we should follow was to differentiate ourselves, not by being the low-cost producer, but really trying to provide a great value proposition. And that would require investing into this opportunity. And it's been a slow process, but fortunately, as we have gained scale, or we continue to gain scale, we've been able to focus on those areas where I believe investment makes the most sense. Driving productivity, driving a better client experience, driving more brand recognition, et cetera, et cetera.
So if you had to choose one of these very important milestones that recently you have achieved, which one would be the one you're most proud of?
I'll say probably the most transformational. Every achievement is a source of pride, but the most transformational milestone would have been the combination of the identification, the realization of the Citibank acquisition, and the capability to actually getting it done from a financial standpoint by realizing that we needed a capital infusion and how we went about that. So the combination, it was almost like the trifecta. No? You identify an opportunity, you know that you got to get it done in a certain way, given your vantage point as a newcomer. This could not be it could be a competitive process. You had to, from the get-go, from the pole position to the finish line, you had to get it done. Then certainly convincing Citibank that you were able to get it done, and then convincing investors of the quality of Bain and JC Flowers. And we ran a whole process to provide us the capital infusion that we needed. And so combining all those elements was truly transformational and really a great stepping stone for us to come to sort of life in the space and be a more relevant player, let's say.
So today you have over 300 independent advisors working with you, and 65 financial institutions. How do all of these players shape your strategy? How do you listen to them?
Well, I've always said that the key differentiator in our strategy is that these groups of advisors or these institutions that we serve are at the core of our operating model. They're not incidental, they're not accidental, they're not a necessary evil. They are what we are made for, or who we really cater to. So in that sense, they are truly influential because they're clients. We don't see our advisors as just an adjunct or a call it an accessory to our core strategy. They are really driving our strategy. So we are very mindful of what their needs are, and we continue to shape and reshape our operating model based on what we read or what we gather are the needs of these clients.
So can you share any investments that you're making to serve their success and their needs?
Well, we're very proud of the Alia project or journey, I would call it, because now we're going to be unveiling Alia 2.0, and it's an example of reading the room or asking the right questions, getting the focus groups in place to precisely hone what, because technology should not be an end all be all or an end in of itself. Technology should drive some value that is important to your clients. So in that sense, Alia stands at the core of what we believe should be a technological advancement of the Insigneo value proposition. And it in my, call it best dream scenario, we should have a situation where from the moment an advisor wakes up or his or her assistant to the moment they decide not to be in a work mode anymore, they should operate within Alia. Everything should happen through and around Alia. That is really what we envision, because it should facilitate everything they do. It should enhance productivity. And let's face it, the only element that you cannot expand is the human capability in an hourly basis. What you can do is certainly augment the capabilities, and that is, in fact, the definition of productivity, is how much can be done by an individual in a given time period, and that it can be augmented through technology, in our opinion.
How important do you think this connectivity is, this human touch, understanding the Latin American wealth market and the Latin American client?
So I was fortunate enough that I went to bilingual high school or elementary and high school in El Salvador. Then I was even more fortunate to come to the U.S. for my college education and postgraduate education. And coming out of that, if there was anything that I had an edge, was not only on being bilingual, but rather being bicultural. Then you have to have a break or two at the beginning to sort of set the stage for path. But what I will tell you is that that bicultural nature has been embedded in my DNA and my awareness that had to be a differentiating factor. And so it's a matter of being intentional about it. It's a matter of recognizing a need and always think in terms of this north-south vector, where being in the U.S. with a U.S. regulated entity and serving the needs of a Latin American clientele made all the sense in the world. And that's why I keep saying we are the U.S.-based and regulated entity that is focused and committed to a region that really has helped us drive our growth.
But what would you say are the different needs of a Latin American client versus a U.S., a domestic client?
Less than you would think, because the wealth is wealth and should be managed professionally, should be diversified, should be focused on the needs of an investor. So in that sense, there is less of a difference, where the subtleties are more along the human aspect of the exchange that is more desirable. And then it's just about that bicultural nature that we discussed earlier, that you find our DNA to be better fit to cater to that, call it the Latin flavor, the importance of relationships, the more of the high touch than the technocratic approach or the hyper-rational approach that probably would be more related to somebody that doesn't have that element. But I wouldn't overplay it. I do believe that it does give you an edge, but it needs to be in addition to having a basic core or value prop that is appealing to this growing client base. And what I will say is that the generation of wealth in Latin America is ranked amongst the highest growing worldwide. So we are at least pointing in the right direction, because there is a pent-up need for wealth services, and we can provide that to the region in a committed fashion. It seems like we're in the right place, or we're approaching the right market.
Absolutely. Are there any trends that maybe we've seen in the United States that are now catching up in Latin America? Products, private assets, for example?
Yes. In that sense, Latin America is perhaps a bit of a laggard. And the first trend that I would like to highlight is advisory versus brokerage. I do believe wholeheartedly that the advisory model is the best approach to wealth management and investing. However, the Latin American region is still embracing it at a slower pace than what you find or what you find domestically. The other aspects are in and of themselves are private markets, alternatives, crypto. They are opportunities for the investor in general to embrace. So no difference between Latin America or the domestic market in that sense. But I will say that we tend to see less understanding in LATAM of some of these, call them more novel investment opportunities that you would find domestically by way of supply and demand. No?
I see. And how about the independent advisor movement? Is that catching up in Latin America?
Well, we're evidence of that, because we're providing a platform that really may support that trend, whether we are trendsetters or we are accommodating to a growing demand. It's half a dozen of this or six of the other. I'll say that the independent model itself has grown tremendously in the U.S., and if you take the same position that Latin America is perhaps following trends rather than leading trends, it's only natural to expect that there will be more. Certainly, we want to be motivating that more demand for for the independent model. That said, there is independence and there is independence. We believe in sort of assisted independence or interdependence, because we do believe that the power of partnership that clearly defines the Insigneo model is a differentiator in and of itself, where we're not just providing a clearing and custody capability and letting any advisor or investment professional that wants to be more independent to recreate everything that needs to be in place in order for that person to be successful in their endeavor. We believe in the power of scale. We believe in the power of investing in such a way that we can provide a much better support system for that entrepreneurial endeavor to be successful, or that entrepreneurial instinct to be assisted by someone like us that is in this supporting cast role, trying to make it easier and more compelling, and ideally a much more robust offering than otherwise would be the case.
I would like to end this interview in a more personal note. You've been in the wealth management space for several decades in many countries. You talked about your vision, how you brought Insigneo to where it is now. How have these experiences shaped your leadership style? As a leader, how do you see yourself?
Yeah, I am more focused on leadership than management, and I am really focusing on orchestrating, on nurturing a culture, on challenging each of my direct reports to bring the best of their capabilities to the common effort, and just creating an environment to expand the art of the possible. So it is really almost a mystical place where you're the orchestra director, the maestro, that probably you don't even know how to play an instrument, or at least you can't not do it even half as well as any of the members of the orchestra, but you have that talent, that knack that allows that orchestra to come together and play beautiful music. So,
okay, just the last question. If there's one piece of advice you could give to a future entrepreneur, maybe Latin American, who's looking into doing business with an idea in this wealth management world, what would you tell this person?
You got to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, then how do you expect others to believe in you? So first of all, you got to believe that it's possible. Then you got to be bold to take chances, because especially at the beginning, you will have to take chances that probably don't make a lot of sense, but you got to have the conviction to take that risk, and then continue to double down all the time. Continue to strive for more, but not in the sense of just quantity. It's more in the sense of purpose, and in the sense of excellence, in the sense of quality, and ultimately, it may or may not work, but it certainly won't work if you don't try. So, good luck, and if you fail, try again.
Well, thank you very much, Raul Henriquez. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for your advice and your very interesting words.
You're welcome. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your interest in Insigneo, and hopefully you can spread this gospel to those who could be served by Insigneo in any way.
Thank you.